The first warning didn't come as a bright flash in the sky or a shaking of the ground. It came as a calm voice that echoed across every screen, every speaker, every piece of tech on Earth. People froze where they stood on busy streets, in small kitchens, in crowded markets, as the message repeated in a steady tone. An alien delegation had arrived, and they demanded the unconditional surrender of humanity. No reason, no negotiation. Just surrender. The world held its breath. For the first time in generations, humanity forgot its borders and arguments. Leaders gathered in emergency councils. Scientists worked without sleep. Soldiers stood waiting for orders. Even everyday people felt the weight of the message settle in their chests. The aliens called themselves diplomats, but their terms carried the cold sharpness of a threat. They spoke of an interstellar war that had shaped countless civilizations, and they claimed humans now stood in the path of a conflict far older and far larger than anything Earth had ever imagined. Still, something felt wrong. Their message insisted that humans had no chance, that resistance would bring only destruction. But people had always been more stubborn than logical, more hopeful than wise, and far tougher than they looked. Stories began to spread rumors of ancient sightings, strange artifacts hidden in old research vaults, and whispers that humans might not be as powerless as the alien diplomats believed. Some said humanity carried a legacy that even the stars feared. A few scientists dared to hint that humans were not newcomers in the grand story of the galaxy, but survivors of something forgotten. In the middle of this rising tension stood a small group tasked with making the first human reply. Among them was Rafik, a quiet strategist known for seeing patterns others missed, and Lena, an engineer who had spent her life studying signals from deep space. They sat in a dim room beneath the Earth Council headquarters, replaying the alien message again and again, searching for anything that might reveal the truth. Every time the voice spoke, it carried a strange confidence, as though the aliens were certain humans would kneel without a fight. But humanity's history had never been one of quiet surrender. And as the team examined the data, they discovered something unsettling about the ship that hovered at the edge of Earth's orbit. Its design didn't match the patterns of a peaceful envoy. Its energy readings suggested weapons capable of wiping out continents. The so-called diplomats were not here to talk. They were here to force a decision. Outside, the skies had turned restless. Faint lights drifted across the upper atmosphere, too steady to be stars and too silent to be aircraft. People filmed them from rooftops and shared the footage, each clip adding to the rising fear and curiosity. Something was forming up there. Something big. Rafik leaned back from the monitor, his voice low. "They're waiting for our answer," he said. "But there's something they don't know." Lena looked at the readings on her screen, her heart pounding. She didn't know whether the truth would save humanity or doom it. And as she prepared to send Earth's first response, a new signal appeared, one not from the aliens, not from any human source, but from somewhere deep in the void. Whatever it was calling humans by a name no one on Earth had ever heard before. The signal pulsed softly at first, just a faint rhythm buried under layers of static. Lena stared at the waveform as it climbed and dipped in steady patterns, almost like a heartbeat. It didn't match any known transmission style from Earth. It wasn't a reflection, wasn't interference, and definitely wasn't part of the alien diplomat's message. Whatever it was older, deeper, and directed straight at humanity. The room seemed to grow quieter as everyone leaned closer to their screens, waiting for the pattern to reveal its meaning. Rafik's fingers moved across the console, isolating the signal and enhancing the clarity. The moment he filtered out the background noise, a strange calmness settled in the room. The signal wasn't threatening. It wasn't demanding surrender. It felt more like a warning or a reminder. As the pulse repeated, Lena felt a strange uneasiness, like the message wasn't new at all, but something humans should have recognized long ago. The Earth Council had always suspected that humanity wasn't alone, but this was something different. This was not the tone of an invader or a conqueror. It carried a sense of expectation, as if the sender was waiting for humanity to remember something forgotten. Rafik exchanged a look with Lena, the same question in both their minds. Why were the alien diplomats insisting humans were powerless while another presence seemed to believe the opposite? Outside the underground chamber, the world was moving in chaos and determination. Emergency broadcasts switched from warnings to updates. Space agencies worked non-stop, launching satellites to track the alien ship and studying the lights drifting in the sky. People gathered on rooftops and open fields, pointing upward with phones and binoculars, trying to understand what was coming. Even though fear hung heavy in the air, there was also a spark of curiosity, hope, defiance. Humanity had never responded to danger with silence. A small team of historians was summoned to the council headquarters. They brought old texts, digital archives, and forgotten research papers. Lena listened as they described ancient stories from different cultures, stories of beings who had visited Earth long before civilization rose. Some accounts spoke of teachers from the sky, others of watchers who guided humanity during its earliest steps. Most scholars had always treated those tales as myths. But now, with a mysterious signal echoing from deep space, the old stories suddenly felt less like fantasy and more like memory. One of the historians mentioned an old theory almost everyone had dismissed, the idea that humans had once been part of a much older conflict in the galaxy, long before current civilizations emerged. According to the theory, humanity wasn't supposed to exist anymore. They were survivors of something catastrophic, scattered across time and space, rebuilding from nothing. But no evidence had ever supported it until now. Rafik frowned as he replayed the signal at half speed. "If this is real," he said quietly, "then the diplomats might not fear our present strength. They might fear our past." Lena felt a chill at his words. The alien's arrogance suddenly made sense. If humans had been involved in an ancient interstellar war, the diplomats might believe Earth carried some forgotten inheritance, something dangerous, something capable of shifting the balance in the galaxy. The demand for surrender might be their attempt to prevent humans from rediscovering whatever power or history had been buried. Yet the idea only made things more confusing. How could an entire species forget its own past? How could a memory so large simply disappear? Unless someone had erased it. While scientists worked to decode the new signal, the diplomat's ship began to reposition itself. Satellites captured images of its massive hull turning ever so slightly, aligning with Earth's orbit in a way that looked far too deliberate. It wasn't preparing to attack, at least not yet. It seemed to be waiting, almost impatiently, for humanity's response. The council held another emergency meeting. Opinions clashed in the room. Some argued for surrender to avoid destruction. Others insisted on resisting, no matter the cost. And a few believed the mysterious signal might be a lifeline, an unseen ally reaching out before the conflict escalated. Lena wasn't a soldier or a politician, but she understood signals, patterns, frequency shifts. She knew when a message carried intention. And the more she studied the deep space transmission, the more she felt it wasn't meant to frighten them. It was calling to them. Calling them by that strange, forgotten name, one that neither she nor anyone on Earth recognized, yet it stirred an uncomfortable familiarity. Rafik leaned over her shoulder. "Do you notice how the signal adjusts every time we scan it?" he asked. "It's reacting to us." The realization hit her like a jolt. The signal wasn't just a broadcast, it was listening. She amplified the output slightly, sending a short test pulse in response. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the signal changed, subtly, intentionally. It was as if something out there had turned its attention fully toward Earth. Rafik took a slow breath. "Whatever that is, it knows we're here." And before Lena could reply, a soft tremor passed through the ground. The monitors flickered. The diplomat's ship suddenly brightened, its energy signatures spiking far beyond previous readings. They had sensed the new exchange. The aliens weren't just waiting for humanity's answer anymore. They were reacting to the fact that someone else, someone powerful, had finally reached out to humans. And if the diplomats feared that connection, then the real danger was only beginning. The tremor that shook the floor wasn't strong, but it was enough to make everyone exchange uneasy looks. Lena grabbed the edge of the console until the shaking stopped. It was the first physical reaction they had felt since the alien diplomats arrived, and it sent a message louder than any transmission. Whatever sat in Earth's orbit had noticed the hidden signal, and now it was adjusting its posture like a predator disturbed by another presence in the dark. Rafik quickly checked the seismic sensors. That wasn't natural, he said in a steady voice, though the tension in his jaw gave him away. It came from above. A pulse from their ship reached the atmosphere. Lena swallowed hard. Are they trying to warn us off? Or scare off whoever contacted us? No one had the answer. The diplomats had remained silent since their first message, but their silence felt heavier now, as if they were watching not just humanity, but the space beyond it. As data filled the screens, Lena noticed a narrow beam of energy extending from the alien ship, almost invisible, but she was sure it wasn't aimed at Earth this time. It was pointed outward, toward the direction of the mysterious signal. It was a countermeasure. The diplomats weren't defending themselves from humans. They were defending their position from someone else. In another part of the council facility, a separate team was working with old star maps and classified files. Rumors spread through the hall's quiet, anxious whispers about strange alignments in the sky and the possibility that the signal came from a region long considered empty. Some claimed the area had once been abandoned after a massive interstellar war, a battlefield no civilization dared to reclaim. But there were no official records to confirm any of it. A communications officer, tense and pale, hurried into the analysis room. The council wants an update, he said. They need to know if this signal is a threat or a possible ally. Lena exchanged a look with Rafik. The truth was complicated. The signal felt familiar in a way that made no sense, but it hadn't shown any hostility. It had only responded when Earth reached out first. We can't call it a threat, Lena said carefully. But we can't promise it's safe either, Rafik nodded. Tell them it's intelligent. And it knows we answered. The officer hesitated but carried the message back. Meanwhile, the lights drifting in the sky had started gathering into loose formations. People around the world filmed them again, but these new shapes looked different, more organized, more deliberate. Some scientists believed they were drones released by the alien diplomats, small probes meant to scan the planet. Others believed they were searching for the source of the deep space signal now echoing across Earth's atmosphere. In the crowd outside the council building, reporters tried to piece together the growing mystery. Interviews with astrophysicists, engineers, and former space program staff created a swirl of new theories. A retired researcher spoke about an old classified project he once worked on, something involving strange energy signatures found in ancient ice cores. He said the readings matched parts of the new signal, though he couldn't explain why. His interview went viral within minutes. Inside the underground chamber, Lena replayed the signal once more. This time she slowed every pulse, every frequency shift, every harmonic. She felt a shiver as she noticed patterns woven within patterns, like someone had coded an entire language inside the rhythm. It's layered, she whispered. Whoever sent this... They wanted only a certain kind of mind to understand it. Whose mind? Rafik asked. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe ours. Maybe something like ours. As they worked, another subplot quietly unfolded far from Earth's surface. On a moon-based listening post, two operators had detected a faint echo, something bouncing back from deep space. It resembled the original signal but twisted, almost damaged. It suggested the presence of something returning the call or something trying to block it. The operators sent a brief report to Earth, but by the time it arrived, half the data was corrupted, as if something had interfered with the transmission. When Lena saw the damaged file, her pulse quickened. The interference didn't look natural, it looked intentional. Something was trying to prevent the message from reaching Earth fully. Whether it was the diplomats or someone else, she couldn't tell. Rafik leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. This is turning into a three-sided conflict, he murmured. Us, the diplomats, and whoever's sending that signal, but why pull us into it? Lena asked. Why call us by a name we don't know? Rafik didn't answer. The truth hovered unspoken between them. Whatever humanity had forgotten, the galaxy hadn't. As the diplomat's ship repositioned again, its energy field expanding in silent warning, Lena felt the weight of a decision forming. Humanity was caught between forces far older and far more powerful than anything they understood. And somewhere in the depths of space, the true sender of the signal seemed to be waiting, patient, watchful, and growing closer. The tension in the underground chamber was almost unbearable. Every screen flickered with live feed satellite scans, energy readings from the alien ship, and the news signal's response patterns. Lena leaned forward, her fingers trembling as she adjusted filters and amplifiers. Each pulse from the mysterious sender seemed more urgent than the last, almost as if it were calling for humanity to act, to remember. Yet every adjustment triggered a reaction from the diplomat's ship, sending ripples through Earth's magnetic field that made the ground hum beneath their feet. Rafik rubbed his eyes, exhaustion and fear mingling in a way he couldn't ignore. "They're learning," he said quietly. "They know every move we make. Every adjustment we try." He gestured toward the monitors showing the diplomat's ship slowly circling like a massive predator assessing its prey. And yet, there's hesitation. They're waiting for something. Outside, the world was on edge. News broadcasts shifted from routine updates to live coverage of strange atmospheric phenomena, the small probes released by the diplomats now glowing like fireflies as they floated over cities, scanning, mapping, observing. People watched from rooftops and streets, some screaming in fear, some marveling at the unearthly spectacle. Humanity's fascination with the cosmos had never been so immediate, so terrifying, so personal. In a private council session, military strategists argued over every possible response. Some suggested total surrender, reasoning that the diplomats' technology and firepower were beyond anything humans could withstand. Others proposed preemptive strikes, using Earth's nuclear arsenal in a desperate gamble. Yet a quieter, more unsettling argument emerged. Perhaps the key lay not in force, but in understanding. The mysterious signal might hold the knowledge humans needed to survive. But that knowledge came with unknown risks, knowledge that, if misused or misunderstood, could provoke the diplomats into immediate attack. Meanwhile, Lena isolated a series of repeating sequences in the signal. Each pulse contained fragments that almost resembled language. The team debated whether it was mathematical communication, a code, or memory itself. As they pieced it together, patterns emerged, echoes of human history interwoven with data no human had seen before. Symbols that were not written anywhere on Earth flickered across the monitors, forming constellations of meaning that were somehow familiar yet impossible. "This is more than a message," Lena whispered. "It's instruction, warning, a reminder." Her voice shook. "And if we don't respond correctly, it could be our undoing." Rafik nodded, but his eyes were fixed on the diplomat's ship, which now hovered directly over the planet's equator. Its energy field was pulsing faster, brighter. The ground hummed more violently. Satellites picked up a faint shockwave, almost like the ship was probing Earth's atmosphere for weaknesses. People worldwide felt it as a subtle vibration, some mistaking it for tremors. Panic and curiosity coiled together, a global tension that matched the chamber's anxious energy. Then came the first direct warning. A massive beam of energy shot down from the alien ship, narrowly missing a remote research facility. The scientists inside barely escaped, scrambling as alarms blared. Across the planet, minor disruptions appeared, power grids flickered, communication lines warped, and satellites in low orbit shifted unnaturally. Humanity realized in stark clarity that the diplomats were capable of instantaneous, planet-wide disruption. Every attempt to communicate, every preparation was being observed, and every mistake could provoke catastrophe. The new signal, the one responding to humanity, pulsed again. This time it was faster, insistent, almost anxious. Lena adjusted the output, trying to interpret it. Then she saw it a sequence that resembled coordinates, overlaid with instructions for activating something buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. The message wasn't just historical, it was a call to action. Whoever sent it wanted humans to do something critical, before the diplomats' next move. Rafik's jaw tightened as he studied the data. "If this is what I think it is," he trailed off, shivering at the implication, "we might be the last chance to change what's coming outside." The diplomat's ship shifted again, releasing a low-frequency hum that resonated through cities and countrysides alike. People clutched at each other, animals panicked, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. The probes now formed a halo around the globe, tracking every movement, observing every reaction. Inside the chamber, monitors began flashing with warnings. Energy levels from the diplomat's ship spiked to unprecedented highs. The ground shook violently, making equipment topple and alarms blare. Lena gritted her teeth and focused on the signal. Every pulse now screamed urgency. Every hidden message hinted at both danger and power. The Council received one final, terrifying update. The diplomat's ship was preparing for a major deployment in action that could change the balance of power on Earth permanently. Humanity's defenses, though carefully planned, were no match for the technology above. And yet, the mysterious signal hinted at a path forward, a way to tip the scales if only humans could decipher it fully. Rafik and Lena exchanged a glance heavy with unspoken fear. Time was running out. The world outside teetered on the brink of chaos, the diplomats poised to act, and the mysterious sender urging humanity toward a choice it didn't fully understand. And then, as if answering their silent dread, the ship released a pulse so intense that it lit the night sky brighter than the sun for a moment. People across the planet froze in awe and terror. Humanity was no longer merely being observed, it was being tested. Lena's voice trembled as she whispered, "It's happening, and whatever comes next. It won't wait for us to be ready." The hum of energy, the trembling ground, the urgent pulses of the hidden signal all converged into a moment of terrifying anticipation. The calm before a storm unlike anything humans had ever faced. And above it all, the diplomats waited, silent, patient, and deadly, while the mysterious presence beyond the stars called once more, demanding humanity rise or fall. The glow from the diplomat's ship faded slowly, leaving the night sky eerily calm, but the sense of relief was fleeting. As Lena adjusted the monitors, a new reading appeared, one that made her heart skip a beat. The deep space signal, the one humanity had been struggling to understand, was splitting. Part of it remained connected, but another part had detached and begun moving in an uncharted trajectory. It wasn't just a response anymore, it was coming toward Earth. Rafik's eyes widened. It's accelerating toward the planet," he said, voice tight. "And it's not slowing down?" Lena's fingers flew across the console, amplifying the incoming data. The new pulse carried patterns they hadn't seen before, sharp, almost violent, as if it were struggling against something unseen. And then it hit them. The detached signal wasn't just a message. It was a vessel of energy, a transmission carrying force, purpose, and maybe even a weapon. Before anyone could process it, the diplomat's ship reacted. Its massive hull shifted, and for the first time, an unmistakable red glow ran along the edges of its structure. It wasn't a warning beam this time, it was an attack formation. Sensors indicated energy fields rising exponentially, targeting the trajectory of the incoming pulse. "This changes everything," Lena whispered, panic threading her voice. "Whatever that signal is, it isn't just trying to help us. It's provoking them." Rafik leaned back, gripping the console. "And they don't like being provoked." Outside, the probes that had been hovering quietly above the Earth began moving in tandem, converging into tight formations. Their lights blinked in patterns that matched the diplomat's ship's pulses, like a synchronized warning. But this time, the probes weren't just scanning, they were preparing for defense, or maybe offense. Humanity was witnessing the first signs of an interstellar standoff above their own planet. Meanwhile, the detached signal grew closer and the energy readings spiked dangerously. Lena realized it wasn't coming alone. The pattern carried echoes of multiple frequencies, layers of a message embedded within layers, almost like a code built for multiple civilizations. The implication hit her like a punch. Whatever was coming toward Earth wasn't meant solely for humanity. It had survived contact with the diplomats before, and it had the power to reach across light years. Then the first casualty of the escalation appeared. A small satellite monitoring system suddenly went dark, its signal replaced by strange interference. Moments later, reports came in from different parts of the globe. Energy disruptions, flickering lights, and unexplained power surges. The diplomat's ship had responded not with a direct strike, but with controlled, precise interference meant to destabilize Earth's defenses. The Council convened in chaos. Advisors shouted over one another, arguing whether to attempt communication with the new pulse or focus on defending Earth from the diplomat's escalation. Military commanders pushed for immediate action-launch missiles. Activate orbital defenses, anything but Rafik and Lena argued for caution. The new signal might be humanity's key advantage, but missteps could trigger full-scale annihilation. Then came the revelation that no one had expected. As the incoming signal approached, Lena noticed a pattern emerging within the pulsa name, repeated over and over. It wasn't random characters or coded mathematics, it was unmistakably human. Or rather, something human-shaped, something that suggested humanity's forgotten history. "Wait," she said, voice rising. "It's calling Earth us by a name we don't recognize, but it's ours." Rafik's brow furrowed. "A forgotten identity?" he asked. "Something hidden in our past?" "Yes," Lena said. "Something the diplomats know about and that we've forgotten? This isn't just a warning or a weapon. It's a key." As the revelation sank in, the diplomat's ship released a second energy pulse, this one far larger than the first. It was aimed not at the incoming signal, but at strategic points across the globe: satellite hubs, communications arrays, and power grids. The intent was clear: disrupt humanity's ability to act, isolate the planet, and force submission. Yet the detached signal continued its approach, seemingly impervious to the diplomat's interference. Its energy field grew visible, shimmering like a living shield against the diplomat's attack. And then, in a moment that sent shivers through everyone monitoring the event, the pulse split again, sending fragments streaking toward major cities, but not to destroy. The fragments seemed to interact with Earth itself, integrating with technology, amplifying signals, even stabilizing power grids that had begun to fail. "What is it doing?" Rafik asked, awe and fear in his voice. "It's preparing us," Lena whispered, "or teaching us something, but it's risky. Every move we make now could trigger the diplomat's full assault." The diplomat's ship shuddered under the strain, its energy spikes growing more erratic. It was no longer a silent observer. It had become a participant in a confrontation it had underestimated. Humanity was caught in the middle, and the detached signal, the mysterious force reaching across the void, was escalating the conflict beyond anything Earth had ever faced. Above, the probes glowed brighter. Around the world, people felt the vibrations in the ground, the hum in the air, the almost tangible tension of a planet on the brink. And beneath it all, Lena and Rafik realized the terrifying truth: the stage for the legendary interstellar war had already been set, and Earth was now a battlefield that no one could predict. The diplomats were not invincible. The signal was not fully understood. Humanity was unprepared, but for the first time, it might be ready to fight. And somewhere in the depths of space, a voice ancient, deliberate, and far older than any human memory was calling out again, demanding that Earth answer, or perish. The diplomat's ship had reached its full intensity. Red energy spikes ran across its hull as it prepared for a decisive strike, one that would devastate Earth if humanity failed to act. Lena and Rafik stood at the control console, their fingers moving rapidly over the equipment, broadcasting pulses to the approaching signal. Every calculation, every adjustment carried the weight of millions of lives. The world above seemed suspended in an eerie silence, as if holding its breath for the final move. Then it happened. The detached signal, the one that had been coming closer, splitting and integrating with Earth's technology, expanded into a massive field around the planet. It radiated light, energy, and something else: order. Systems stabilized, communications strengthened, and, most importantly, a shield formed against the diplomat's most powerful energy attacks. The ship's red glow flickered as its strikes were deflected, harmlessly dissipating in the protective field. Rafik exhaled sharply. "It's holding them off," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever this is, it's giving us a chance." But the diplomats didn't retreat. Instead, they responded in full force, sending a massive pulse directly at the planet's core of communication satellites. The strike was precise, but the signal countered it, splitting once more to intercept and neutralize the diplomat's energy. For the first time, the ship's operators saw hesitation on the monitors and uncertainty in the alien commanders. They were facing resistance unlike anything they had anticipated. The pulse from the mysterious signal started to merge with human-controlled systems. Satellites, defense grids, even localized energy networks sensed with the foreign energy in ways Lena had only dreamed of. Humanity was no longer passive. They were interacting, guided by the signal, amplifying its effects. And then something impossible happened. The diplomats' probes, which had been floating ominously over major cities, began flickering with the same energy. One by one, they changed alignment, no longer attacking or scanning. They rotated, synchronized with the signal, and began moving away from Earth. The council members watched in awe. It was a full-scale reversal. The diplomats' invasion, their threats of annihilation, were unraveling in real time. Earth was no longer powerless, it had remembered. Lena realized the signal had done more than defend the planet. It had awakened something intrinsic to humanity, a latent capability that the diplomats had assumed extinct. "Look at this," she said, pointing at the readings. "It's not just shielding us, it's integrating human intuition. It's amplifying our ability to respond in real time." The diplomats, they underestimated us because they didn't know what humans could become when they remembered. Rafiq's eyes widened. "So this was always a test?" he asked. "Not just of strength, but of memory? Of identity?" Before Lena could answer, the diplomat's ship emitted a final, immense pulse. It lit the sky brighter than the sun, and for a terrifying moment it seemed as if nothing could stop it. The energy field wavered. Then the mysterious signal flared, cascading waves of energy that enveloped the diplomat's ship. Their hull glowed, not with aggression, but with an unfamiliar resonance, as if the ship itself were being rewritten, reprogrammed by the signal. And then silence. The ship hovered, inert. Its red spikes faded to a neutral silver, and slowly it began moving away from Earth. The probes followed, dispersing into space, leaving humanity intact. For the first time in days, the world exhaled. People stepped outside, looking up at the night sky, stunned and awed. They had survived the legendary interstellar war that had been looming over their civilization, and had survived not just by force, but by awakening to a strength they had never fully known. Lena slumped in her chair, relief mixing with disbelief. Rafiq placed a hand on her shoulder, both of them staring at the monitors where the signal now lingered above the planet. "We did it," he said. "We actually did it." But then the monitors blinked with a new reading. The signal pulsed one final time, and within the pulse an unmistakable pattern appeared. It wasn't a farewell, it was a message. Lena leaned closer, reading aloud. "Prepare for others," Rafiq froze. "Others? You mean there are more?" The energy signature flickered, growing brighter, and then a series of coordinates appeared far beyond the diplomat's reach, beyond the edges of known space. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a summons. "Not just a war," Lena whispered, a chill running down her spine. "A larger interstellar network? We've survived this test, but whatever is out there, it knows we exist now." Above, the last traces of the diplomat's ship dissolved into the void, leaving only the mysterious signal hovering in orbit, calm yet immense. Humanity had won the battle, but the war, the true war, the one hinted at in whispers across old star maps and ancient legends, was only beginning. And somewhere, deep in the uncharted expanse of space, the forces that had sent the signal waited, watching, knowing Earth had awakened. The next chapter was coming, and humanity would have to rise even higher, or face the unimaginable consequences of being noticed. The world below buzzed with celebration, relief, and awe, but Lena and Rafiq knew that the victory was only the first step. Humanity had survived the diplomats, but something far greater had marked their existence. And the universe had just started watching. The world slowly began to recover. Streets that had been empty in terror now filled with cautious crowds, people looking upward at the night sky with new reverence. The diplomat's ship had disappeared into the depths of space, and the mysterious signal lingered above Earth, a silent guardian that had revealed the hidden strength of humanity. Scientists, engineers, and strategists worked tirelessly to understand what had happened, piecing together how the signal had interacted with Earth's technology and, more importantly, how it had awakened something within humans themselves. Lena and Rafiq moved among the teams, answering questions, analyzing data, and helping coordinate efforts to integrate the signal's energy into planetary defense systems. The pulse had left behind residual patterns, blueprints, instructions, and knowledge embedded in ways humans were only beginning to decode. It was as if the mysterious presence had prepared them, not just to survive the diplomats, but to step into a larger role in the galaxy. The old theories about humanity's forgotten past, the hints of ancient interstellar wars, all of it suddenly fit together in a way no one could have predicted. Humans had survived not because of sheer strength alone, but because they remembered, because they had tapped into something lost, something essential to their identity. Across the globe, people celebrated, but the victory was tempered with humility. The threat of the diplomats had been real, and their power had been undeniable. Humanity had faced annihilation and survived, but it had done so by awakening intelligence, ingenuity, and courage long buried beneath fear and doubt. Families embraced, scientists cheered, and soldiers looked to the skies with newfound respect for the unknown. The world had been shaken, but it had not broken. The Council issued a global statement acknowledging the mysterious signal and humanity's response. They called it a turning point, a moment where humans had proven their resilience not just to the galaxy, but to themselves. The message emphasized collaboration, observation, and preparation. For the first time, humans understood that survival was not about surrender, not about hiding, but about recognition of potential, of past, and of the vast network of forces beyond the stars. Meanwhile, reports came in from the field teams studying the signal's integration with Earth systems. Cities that had been affected by energy surges returned to normal, but the technology left behind was far more advanced. Communications were faster, energy networks more efficient, and new discoveries in physics and mathematics appeared almost as if they had been handed to humanity in fragments. Scientists speculated that the mysterious presence had given Earth not just a defense, but a gift, knowledge of interstellar patterns, technology, and history that could propel humanity into a new era. For Lena and Rafik, the aftermath was personal as much as professional. They spent nights analyzing the signal, piecing together its layers, and preparing humanity for what it might mean. Though the immediate danger had passed, they both felt the lingering tension of anticipation. The message had hinted at others, forces far beyond the diplomat civilizations older, more powerful, and aware of Earth's existence. Humanity had survived the first test, but the galaxy was vast and its challenges were only beginning. The old myths and legends suddenly took on new significance. Stories once dismissed as fantasy now carried fragments of truth warnings, histories, and lessons embedded in time. Humanity began to realize that it was not just observers of the cosmos, but participants in an ongoing saga with responsibilities as well as vulnerabilities. The ancient past was not lost, and the future depended on the choices made in the present. As the skies cleared and the signal gradually faded, leaving Earth protected but aware, Lena looked up with Rafik beside her. "We did more than survive," she said quietly. "We remembered." "And that's what made the difference," Rafik nodded, staring at the stars. "We've proven ourselves. But we have to be ready, whatever is out there. They've noticed us now." And yet, even as they spoke, there was hope. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged stronger, wiser, and united in ways it had never been before. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, but Earth had a place in it now. Humans had discovered not only their resilience, but their legacy and interstellar history that had been hidden in a future that was theirs to shape. The world continued to rebuild, to innovate, and to explore. Schools incorporated lessons from the events. Nations collaborated in unprecedented ways, and ordinary people carried stories of survival and courage that inspired generations. Humanity had survived the legendary interstellar war, had faced alien diplomats demanding surrender, and had awakened to a forgotten strength. And in the quiet of space, the last pulse of the mysterious signal lingered, watching, waiting, and reminding humanity that the stars were no longer silent, and that the adventure was only just beginning.